Hey Internet, I'm continuing my Knights of the Frozen Throne card review. This is part 3. We left off on Hunter, we just got finished with Corpse Widow, and now we're back to look at Toxic Arrow. 2 mana, deal 2 damage to a minion. If it survives, give it poisonous. I don't really know why you'd ever want to do this to one of your own minions, because obviously you're not going to do it to an opponent's minion. You'd only ever use this if it has the option to kill their minion, but if you give it to your own minion becomes poisonous. So does it combo with any of the other Hunter cards that exist? Sorry, for some reason I thought this was a Hunter card. I was thinking it can maybe combo with this because you want this to die. But to give one of your own minions poisonous, the first thing is that none of these cards combo with it. Except maybe this one, but this one you can't target. This one you just kill, which you don't want to do. This one already has poisonous. This one has 1 health, which I suppose if you want to use 6 mana to do 2 damage to all enemy minions, you can. But that seems like an awful idea. And again, you don't get the poisonous effect if you do that. This way, you end up with a 5 mana 4/4 with poisonous, and I suppose it can quickly kill a big minion. So this is like, if you have a minion on the board, this is like a targeted deadly shot, is what it is. Instead of killing a random enemy big minion, you end up allowing one of your minions to die. Use 2 cards, and it has the versatility where you can either do 2 damage to a minion and kill one of the small minions without doing any damage to yours, or you can kill one of yours, use this extra card, and kill the big minion, so that your opponent still ends up coming out ahead. So as to why you would take this over Deadly Shot, I don't know. Because if you're going to be using a card like this, then very likely your opponent's going to have just spent their entire turn playing a big minion. Then you just play Deadly Shot, and it's just dead. But this, you need board control in order to get use out of it. And if you have board control, you probably don't need it. Or you probably just want to play Deadly Shot. So it just seems like a bad card to me. Maybe if you made it 1 mana, if this was a 1 mana card, it's playable. If it's a 2 mana card, I would never play it. Abominable Bowman. 7 mana, 6/7. Now, just the stats on this make it playable. This is only 1 worse off than the War Golem, which is a 7/7, 7 mana card. But let's see the Death Rattle. Summon a random friendly beast that died this game. The problem with this is that the beast cards in a Hunter Beast deck are only good because they can be buffed up by other cards. So if you summon just the friendly beast that died, well, this by itself is not very good. 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 And this also has to die first in order for this effect to occur. So if this was a Battlecry, this might be okay. I suppose you can combo it with Play Dead to use 2 mana, to use 2 cards and 8 mana in order to get the effect. But given that this is not a Battlecry, it can be silenced. We may end up seeing more silence this expansion pack, but just by itself, this is a very okay card. If you want to play a big minion, you might as well just play Scavenging Highmane. If you're, I don't really see this doing well with any sort of Hunter deck. The only really good Hunter decks nowadays are Rush or mid range. This is a more Control Hunter type deck, and Control Hunter is not a thing. So maybe Blizzard's loosely trying to push it by adding this card and this card, where it kind of synergizes together, but not really at all. So maybe it synergizes with Corpse Widow as well. But again, even a 5 mana 6/7, which you play on turn 6 because you do have to play this on turn 6, so really it's a 6 mana 6/7 because you have to use all of turn 6 to play it. Um, I don't know. There's only one card I'd want to summon off this, and that's Scavenging Highmane. Every other beast card, I don't really care about resummoning, which means not an overly good card. So the next one, the Legendary Hunter card. 4 mana, 5/4. After you play a secret, put a random Hunter secret into the battlefield. So that's probably why they added another Hunter secret, so that it can have more to combo with this. But this is not a good Hunter secret. And you put a random Hunter secret onto the battlefield, but that means you also have to play a secret deck. And a lot of the cards that synergize with secret decks are in the wild now. They're not part of standard, so this wouldn't see that much play in standard because the normal secret cards that exist in this game have not been overly good as time has progressed, as power creep has been a thing, and you would need this to be played in wild, in which case you can make a lot of good hunter secret decks with it. If it's played in standard, it's not an overly good card. So 6 mana, Death Knight card. Deathstalker Rexar. You also gain 5 armor, as I think all of them have that effect. Pretty sure they all do. So it is cheaper than the other one. We have already found the next cheaper one. We've already gone down one class. And the Battlecry, deal 2 damage to all enemy minions. So again, this is like a playable exploding boat bat, just like how this is a playable web weave. I don't know which came first, but one of these cards should not exist with the effect it has because you would only ever want to play one. If you want to play Exploding Bloatbat, here's what you do. You disenchant this card for dust, and you get yourself Deathstalker Rexar. Okay? Can you do that for me? Anyway, its effect. Hero power. Build a beast, 2 mana, craft a custom beast. These are the zombies that you can craft. And from what I've heard, every single option you get when crafting these beasts will cost 5 mana or less, so you can't get some crazy, wacky legendary that you can't possibly play because it costs 30 mana. All the mana costs get added together, so you can craft a crazy zombies, but it is guaranteed to be a 10 mana or less zombies because each individual one costs 5 mana or less, which also means you don't end up with crazy effects that exist on the higher mana cards. So this is a high level of RNG, but I like the new hero power just because it's unique. You know, unlike the new Druid hero power, which is just you just do extra damage or you get extra armor more than your normal hero power. That's boring. This card is at least interesting, but as to how good it is, it's again highly dominated by RNG. Still, I kind of like the card. It's interesting. Now onto the Mage cards. There's a lot less uncollectible cards for Mage. Well, actually, there aren't. There's the same amount. It's true that has all the uncollectible cards because there's all sorts of choice cards going on. In any case, Mage. Breath of Sindragosa. Probably not how you pronounce it. Who cares? 1 mana. Deal 2 damage to a random enemy minion and freeze it. So there is the 1 mana Shaman card. Deal 1 damage to a targeted character, which can be the opponent's hero, and freeze it. This is probably as good as that card, if not better, because you can largely control the random enemy minion by just killing off other minions. And if you're playing this, chances are that your opponent only has 1 minion on the board, so you can just freeze a big minion pretty easily. And the other thing about that is that unlike Shaman, Mage actually has a lot of cards that combo with freezing your opponent's minions. So one of the biggest problems with the Mage card, the 5/5 that gains +2/+2 when your opponent has a frozen minion, is that it's very difficult to play any Mage cards in conjunction with that without needing like 9 or 10 mana. This would allow it to be played a lot quicker, and you deal 2 damage with it. So this will see play in freeze decks. As to whether or not it's broken is dependent upon how good those freeze decks are. It depends how optimized they become. But obviously Blizzard wants to keep pushing the freeze Mage meta into the game. They've kind of stopped pushing the secrets meta a little bit. They do have a new secrets card, but beyond that, it seems that a lot of these cards are based on freezing. Or at least they look frozen, things of that nature. In any case, next card, 3 mana, 3/4, Battlecry. If an enemy is frozen, draw a card. So for 3 mana cards, 3/3 are the base stats that you want for it to be playable, because 3/3 trades with almost any other 3 mana card. And then the other part about this is that you get card draw while getting a 3/4 body on the board. That makes this one of the best card draw minions in the game, and I like the mechanic of it because it forces you to be smart because you have to freeze your opponent's minions. So obviously this synergizes with the previous card, but it one of the biggest problems with Novice Engineer back when it was a 2/1 was that you just played in every deck because you automatically draw a card. You're guaranteed to draw a card. This card has the major drawback to where if you can't freeze an enemy, or if it's not wise for you to freeze an enemy because you'd be wasting a card, then you don't get a card. And it only happens on the Battlecry. So this is, I think, a well-balanced card. I did not mean to do that just now. Let me go ahead and go back. So the next card is a secret. 3 mana Frozen Clone. After your opponent plays a minion, add 2 copies of it to your hand. The big problem with Mirror Entity is that a lot of the time you do not want to copy whatever it is they play. It's very easy to play around Mirror Entity by just playing a Battlecry, in which case your opponent doesn't get the Battlecry and they get crappy stats, because Battlecry minions generally have bad stats. Or you can just play like a 1-1, and that's all it is. You just get a 1-1 Mirror Entity. You spend 3 mana on it, and it's not useful for you. This makes it so that A, your opponent has to play around a secret. B, you get 2 of those in your hand. So if he has a Battlecry, you get 2 of those Battlecries. If they try to play around Mirror Entity by using Battlecry minions, now you got 2 of them in your hand, and whatever Battlecry he got, you can unleash onto them twofold. So it's a very interesting card. It's certainly not broken because it's a reactionary card, but as far as reactionary cards go, I do think that it's versatile enough to where it'll see play, but it's certainly not broken. Next, 2 mana Icewalker. 1/3 elemental, your hero power also freezes the target. Obviously, the 1/3 stats are not what matter here. The only reason it has 3 health is not to make this minion better, but it's to make the effect last longer. So your hero power also freezes the target. Again, they're really pushing that freeze mage archetype, and this obviously synergizes with Cold Wrath, so you don't have to run Breath of Sindragosa. You can run another minion if you want another minion, and it's an elemental, so it synergizes with all of Ungirl, or all the elemental cards in Ungirl. What is really nice about this is that it really shuts down Pirate Warrior. It doesn't really need to be shut down that much more, because as new cards have been coming out, Pirate Warrior has been getting worse and worse, but I do like having more options to shut down your opponent's weapon without having to have weapon removal in your hand. And of course, it gives your opponent the option of playing around it by just killing this minion. So it's a well-designed card. It will probably see a lot of play because it's got good enough stats to be played by itself even without an effect. And with its effect, you gain a lot of power in this game. So I like this card. I'm probably going to try out some decks with it because it seems like it could be very good if you play it right. 3 mana, 3/2, Doomed Apprentice is the next card. Your opponent's spells cost 1 more. So the main problem with Next Ramus, the card Lotheb that made your opponent's cost 5 more on 1 turn, is that if you make that last any more than a single turn, the card is just broken. But cards like that are very interesting because they really make you and your opponent think as to when I should be saving my combo pieces and when you should play a card like this in order to prevent your opponent from playing their combo pieces. So once you have this card in the game, the 3/2 stats are obviously pretty bad for a 3 mana card. These are 2 mana card stats, but the effect is so powerful to where you can tell that your opponent has been saving maybe Auctioneer all game, or they're saving a bunch of 0 mana, 1 mana spells all game to combo with spell damage. Well, you play this, all of a sudden you ruin their plays, and they have to really think about it as to whether or not you've played this card yet in order to play around you and get their combo off. That's a good card because you have to think a lot and your opponent has to think a lot, which makes the game more interesting and strategic. It limits randomness. There's actually no randomness with this card, so it's a well-designed card. I'd say certainly not broken, but it will probably see a lot of use in cards that like to control the game a bit more. Or decks, rather. So, next card, 4 mana, 2/6. Ghastly Conjurer. Battlecry. Add a mirror image spell to your hand. This card is... It synergizes well in wild decks if you play Flamewalker, because obviously the mirror images work well with that. But the reason I like this card is because, again, I like when you can control what cards you draw. So this is basically like draw a specific card from your deck, or play a secret to get a secret, or discover a minion in your deck. It's along those lines where you can control what happens. So instead of having a mirror image in your hand or in your deck and needing to draw it at exactly the right time, needing to get lucky with it and having it when you need it, you can control the outcome with this card. Just based on that, I like it. But based on the stats, I probably wouldn't play it. So there's that. 3 mana, Simoro, whatever the name is. Anyway, copy the lowest cost minion in your hand. Obviously, if you have a 10 mana minion in your hand, it would copy that. If you have lower cost minions, it will copy those. This is a pretty self-explanatory card. It's like Echo of Medivh, except instead of also having it on the board, you have it in your hand, and your opponent, I think, doesn't know that you'll have it. I've seen this played. It's my first time seeing the card, but I think they don't get to see what card it is, so it's like a secret version of Echo of Medivh that's not a secret, because you know it is, but your opponent doesn't know it is, so it's essentially like how the game works. So I think mostly what they wanted to do was make Exodia Mage a thing again, because with Echo of Medivh rotating out at some point, maybe it's already rotated out, I don't know, you can't do Exodia Mage anymore unless you have this card. So there's that. Next, 8 mana Glacial Mysteries. Place one of each secret from your deck into the battlefield. I like this because, again, you get to control A, what secrets get played, B, you control what card draw you have, and it plays those secrets, meaning that if this card is mana efficient, it's dependent upon whether or not you've drawn those secrets by turn 8, and whether or not you have 3 or more. If also, obviously, you have 2 or less, it's not necessarily a good card because you spent 8 mana to play 2 cards that cost 6 mana, but you also drew 2 cards, so it's an 8 mana. In that scenario where you're drawing 2 secrets, it's 8 mana, draw 2 cards, play 2 secrets for 6 mana. That, I think, is the borderline playability. If you only have 1 secret left, I don't think that this is overly playable. I think you should just keep it in your hand and not use it. But I think it's a better designed card than the Paladin card where you play 6/6 and get 5 secrets out, because 5 is, I think, the maximum number of secrets you can have. Or no, I think you can potentially have more. In any case, I like that you don't also summon a minion. If this summoned the minion and got all your secrets out, it would be broken. With the way it is, it's still a very good card. You're certainly going to see it in secret decks. Secret decks are going to make a comeback in large part because of this card. But I don't think it's broken. Maybe we'll see. We'll see. That's where I'm at, because normally you want to play a lot of your secrets before turn 8. So this might be a little bit too slow for secret decks. Next card, Sindragosa, 8 mana, 8/8, which are already playable stats. Battlecry, summon 2/0/1 Frozen Champions. You can see the Frozen Champions down here. It's a 1 mana, 0/1. Death Rattle, add a random legendary minion to your hand. I don't like this card at all because it doesn't have taunt. I would want this card to have taunt so that my opponent has to hit it. It's essentially like Mirror Image. Add a Mirror Image to your hand, except you play Mirror Image, and your Mirror Images summon a random legendary minion. Or they add a legendary minion to your hand. Without taunt, this is not a good card unless they're essentially forcing you to combo this with Frost Lich Jaina. 9 mana, new hero, you gain 5 armor, and Battlecry, summon a 3/6 water elemental. Your elementals have life steal this game, and your hero power, which does 1 damage, can now be used to kill these, so you end up spending 17 mana, 19 mana total to kill one of these. You get another legendary minion in your hand, and you can reload. Now you got an 8/8 on the board, you got 5 extra health, you got 3/6 on the board, and after you kill one of these, you have another 3/6 on the board, and you got a new legendary minion in your hand. So obviously these 2 cards are created to go in conjunction with each other. They're obviously designed for each other, meaning that each one individually, not that good. This one's okay by itself. It really depends on whether or not your opponent lets you ever get the effect off. This one is okay by itself because an 8 mana 8/8 is very marginal. And if you can't kill these, then it's not very good. Together, they are a good combo. But it requires until turn 10 in order to really get this combo off. So The Icy Touch, deal 1 damage if this kills a minion, summon a water element, so I forgot to mention that. So what happens when you play Frostquest Jaina. Again, this is highly dependent upon whether or not your opponent actually lets you do that. And of course, you can do it yourself. You can hit your own minions. But generally, you really have to do a lot of planning in order for this to be good, which means that a lot of time it's not going to be any good. Now then, on to Paladin. The first card, 1 mana 1/1, Taunt, Divine Shield. Righteous Protector. Another blatant case of power creep. It used to be that you had a 1 mana 1/1 with Divine Shield. That's a neutral card available to everybody. How can we help Paladin out? Well, let's take that card and also give it Taunt, which doesn't combo with that much in Paladin. There's not a lot of Taunt combos, but if you're trying to stall the game out in any way, then having a 1/1 with Divine Shield and Taunt really slows your opponent down a lot. That's a very annoying card. It's like the Annoyotron, except cheaper, and it's Paladin exclusive. And now for the next card. 2 mana, Dark Conviction, set a minion's attack and health to 3. This card obviously combos with your hero power. It combos with the Righteous Protector. Now you got on turn 2, you got a 3/3 with Taunt and Divine Shield, which is probably one of the best things you could possibly have on turn 2, outside of things like Tunneling Trog. It's beyond that though. It also has the uses where you can play it on your opponent's minion. So your opponent plays a big minion. Well, if you got Dark Conviction, all of a sudden it's not a big minion at all, is it? Next card, 4 mana 3/2, Charge and Lifesteal. Lifesteal is again that new game mechanic where you hit your opponent and you heal your hero for the amount of damage that you dealt. Chillblade Champion. By itself, not a good card. 3 mana, 3 attack card on 4 mana with Charge. Well, you can get a 3 attack card on 3 mana with Charge if you really want it. And the Lifesteal probably not that useful unless you buff this card up. This card is obviously not meant to be played by itself. It's meant to be played in a hand buff deck. It's obviously been designed to be played as such. That's why its base stats aren't very good. So if you top deck this, it's not going to help you a lot. If you combo it, if you keep it with all your hand buff cards, well, all of a sudden this card can become very good because you can kill a minion and say heal for 6. That's pretty good on 4 mana. So this card is only good if you buff it up. Otherwise, it's trash tier. Next card, 2 mana Desperate Stand. Give a minion Death Rattle. Return this to life with 1 health. This card is like the 1 mana Secret, except you can target it. I always hated playing Repentance because your opponent gets to choose which card gets repented, meaning they can just kill one of your silver-handed recruits and then all of a sudden that's the card that comes back with 1 health. That's not useful to you. With this, you can choose what card comes back to life with 1 health. And I think if you've given them extra death rattles, I think they also come with death rattles. So I'm not sure about this, but I think it combos with the 6 mana, give your card +2/+6 and summon a Stegodon. If it does combo with that, then this is a very broken card because you can just keep those cards up forever essentially unless your opponent has Silence. Otherwise, it's a very decent card, but there are a lot of very annoying Paladin cards, like for example Tyrion. Even this card is annoying to have it return to life with 1 health because it's got that Divine Shield. If you use this in Divine Shield decks with a lot of Divine Shield minions, it might be kind of annoying. If you use this in Death Rattle decks, it's certainly going to be annoying. But beyond that, it's not an overly good card because there's a lot of better 2 mana cards you could be playing. Next card, 3 mana 2/2. Howling Commander, Battlecry, summon a Divine Shield minion from your deck. Now, I've already told you my thoughts on this. I like when you can control what cards you draw, and again, it seems like they're pushing Divine Shield in this game because this synergizes well with Desperate Stand. It synergizes well with Righteous Protector. And that's basically all you need to know about the card. Its stats are awful, but it's not about the stats. It's about the card draw and choosing what card you draw. Next, 4 mana Arrogant Crusader, 4 mana 5/2, Death Rattle. If it's your opponent's turn, summon a 2/2 ghoul. Basically, Excuse me while I drink some water. Your opponent has to be very careful when they kill this card because they can't just leave it up. A 4 mana, 5 attack minion can do a lot of damage to you. That's, what, a sixth of your health? Gone each turn it hits your face. So you cannot just ignore this card. But you have to be careful about when you give your opponent that 2/2, because if you give it to them too early or too late, then they can also buff it up with other cards in their hand. So obviously your opponent is probably going to want to play Taunt in order to ensure that this dies on your turn. You are going to want to try to figure out a way to kill it so that it does not die on your turn. It's a well-designed card because both players have to really think about how to properly play the card. Next card, Light's Sorrow, 4 mana, 1/4. After a friendly minion loses Divine Shield, gain +1 attack. Again, it's quite obvious that they are trying to push Divine Shield Paladin in this expansion. So this card seems like it only starts activating when it's been played. I really wonder if this has to be played in order for this effect to occur. I can't really tell. It's certainly not a Battlecry. If this effect occurs just throughout the game, even if you haven't drawn the card or haven't played the card, then it's a very powerful card. If not, it's a very weak card. That's my take on it. Next, 6 mana, black card, 3/9. Whenever your hero is healed, deal that much damage to a random enemy minion. In Paladin, you are going to have a lot of heals available to you. There's the legendary heal card, there's Lifesteal. Obviously, this synergizes with Lifesteal, so you play this, and you heal your hero for 3 health if you haven't buffed this at all, and you deal 3 damage to an enemy minion. And given that this has 9 health, it's one of the hardest minions to kill in the game. 9 health is really up there in terms of survivability, meaning that with the proper lifesteal buffs and combos, you can get an amazing amount of value out of this card. But you have to have a deck essentially designed around it in order for this card to be good, which is its main drawback. I think it's going to be very limited in use because you need a specific deck for it. Otherwise, it's not an overly good card. Next, 5 mana, 1/7. Bovar, Fireblood, Divine Shield. After a friendly minion loses Divine Shield, gain +2 attack. So both of these cards continue to work when you play new cards on the board. So since it's not a Battlecry, what that means is that as you're developing the board and losing Divine Shield, this still keeps powering up, which makes it very much playable. If you get it as a 5/7, which just requires 2 minions to lose Divine Shield, 2 of your minions, it's already a good card. A 5 mana 5/7 is, I think, better stats than any other 5 mana card. I might be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure that's right. So beyond that point, it's already great. So it's guaranteed to be able to get up to 3/7 if it loses its own Divine Shield. If you lose just one other minion, you get up to 5/7. It's already a very playable card. And 1 minute beyond that, it becomes an amazing card because it's a 5 mana 7/7 that can keep getting buffed up. Obviously, it's no 4 mana 7/7 from the start, but it's good enough. Next, 9 mana, Uther of the Ebon Blade. 5 armor, as with all of these cards, and Battlecry equipped a 5/3 lifesteal weapon, which can be seen down here. It's the Grave Vengeance. It has a lifesteal, so this can potentially heal you up for 15, and you do 15 damage. So let's look at the new hero power as well, because that's one of the more important parts about this. The 4 Horsemen. Hero power. Summon a 2/2 Horseman. So if they had just buffed the hero power, that would have been very boring, because instead of summoning a 1/1 Silverhand Recruit, you summon a 2/2 Silverhand Recruit. That's not that good, especially compared to the other hero powers. But if you have all 4, so this works like the Shaman hero power, you can get 4 different types. If you have all 4, you destroy the enemy hero. This is obviously Exodia Paladin. You play 5 cards, and you get the win. The only real way to get this off is to make it so that you can recast your hero power every turn and to make it cost less. Otherwise, bouncing cards back or playing other cards to get these four horsemen out there doesn't work out too well. I have seen this used successfully once by making the hero power cost 0. Other than that, it's not an overly good hero power. But I don't know, get on them for promoting this archetype. So, to get my next part in the series, you'll have to watch part 4. Thanks for watching.